Keith Urban once gave Lainey Wilson a 5-word reality check, which she disclosed. Wilson admitted she was running on fumes after performing over 180 shows in a year, and Urban wasn't about to let her complain. "I had been traveling." In an interview with the podcast No Filter, she stated, "I think we played 180-something shows that year. I told him, I'm exhausted, when I saw him. No whining on the yacht," he said. "Keith, you better get out of my face," I said. The vocalist of You'll Think of Me has given Wilson more guidance than just that. When Lainey Wilson, the singer of 4x4XU, complained about tour fatigue, Keith Urban once advised her, "No whining on the yacht." Getty Images / John Shearer for CMA. "Keith Urban has been one of those guys for me," she stated. "Not long ago he informed me. It's better to maintain balance than to constantly strive for it," he says. "To me, that means figure out what works for you," Wilson continued. "Maintain a healthy work-life balance. Because it's difficult to recover once you're kind of unbalanced." The reminders of him, actress also thanked Miranda Lambert for guiding her in the business. Miranda Lambert gave the country music singer wise counsel, which Lainey Wilson commended. Getty Images / Christopher Polk / Penske Media. "She has been somebody that I can call, and she just, tells you like it is," Wilson said. "And she's one of the people who told me, she's like, it's 20% music and 80% business. And so, once I started hearing that kind of stuff, and just picking up on random wisdom that so many artists have been willing to share with me, I write it down in a little section of my phone." Wilson also recalled the realization that she had become acquainted with some of the biggest artists in country music. "It was one of those things where now I'm getting invited to the CMA Awards, the Country Music Awards, the ceremony for the Heart Like a Truck performer stated. I get to sit at the same table as these people right now. It's the most absurd thing. After that, they begin to treat you as if you were one of them. Things a Man Ought to Know, a single by Lainey Wilson, scored her first No. 1 hit in 2021. Photo via Getty Images. Wilson claimed that when she watched the same award events as a child, she couldn't help but remember back. "I simply recall thinking, man, that would be really wonderful if I could be down there in the mix with those folks, as a young girl watching all these awards. Because I thought I was one of them," she said. Once the victories began to come in, that sensation intensified. In addition to winning Entertainer of the Year in 2024 and 2025, Wilson was recognized as the new Artist of the Year in 2022. "It was one of those moments for me where I'm like, this industry that I have been working on my relationships for 15 years now, these people have come to bat for me," Wilson said. "And now, when your peers and the people you look up to are voting for you and are happy of you, like Keith Urban and everyone else I've met, it gives you the impression that the 9-year-old girl wasn't all that insane. From the outside, subscribed country music may appear glamorous. The clapping never seems to stop, the people are boisterous, and the lights are dazzling. However, there is a side of the business that fans hardly see beyond the glitz of packed arenas and red carpet appearances. Unending travel, restless nights, and a schedule that may strain even the most resilient artists." Lainey Wilson, a burgeoning country music artist, was more affected by that fact than she had anticipated. She had an unbelievable amount of pressure at one time in her rapidly advancing profession. She was producing songs, playing non-stop, traveling between cities, filming TV appearances, and attempting to maintain relationships with the fans who had helped launch her career. She found herself complaining about how draining things had gotten during that tense period. When she did, she received a direct 5-word reaction from fellow country music icon Keith Urban, which she claims completely altered her viewpoint. Even though it was a simple event, she would never forget it. "You have chosen this life. 5 words only." Wilson, on the other hand, saw them as an unexpected reality check. The dream that had a cost. Wilson was a young dreamer from Louisiana before she rose to prominence as one of the most identifiable new voices in country music. She was surrounded by stories and music as a child, listening to the sounds of vintage country legends and dreaming of being on those same stages someday. It was not an easy path to that dream. With little more than tenacity and a strong passion for songwriting, Wilson relocated to Nashville. She experienced rejection, uncertainty, and extended periods of time when success seemed excruciatingly far off, much like many other aspiring artists. She wrote nonstop, performed at tiny events, and bided her time until someone would eventually take a chance on her. That moment finally arrived. Her distinctive fusion of contemporary narrative and traditional country grit started to draw notice. Listeners responded well to songs like Things a Man Ought to Know, which began to rise in the charts. Wilson changed gradually from an optimistic novice to a budding star. However, she wasn't prepared for the crushing workload that came with success. All of a sudden, there were a lot of obligations every day. A radio interview in one state, a flight to another city for rehearsals, and a late-night performance in front of thousands of fans might all start one morning. There was no denying the thrill of realizing her ambition. However, the tiredness was also genuine. The timetable that almost broke her Wilson schedule seemed nearly unachievable during the peak of her early breakthrough fame. Opportunities continued coming in, and her squad was keen to take advantage of the momentum she was creating. Excursions, celebrations, award ceremonies, appearances in the media, sessions for writing songs. The issue was that they hardly had time to breathe in between each other. Wilson subsequently acknowledged that on certain days, she could hardly recall which city she was in. She frequently slept in short bursts between flights and sound checks, and her suitcase never seemed to be completely unpacked. The enthusiastic performer was visible to the audience on stage. Not every time did they witness the weary artist boarding another bus or aeroplane. Wilson eventually began to wonder if the pace was sustainable, as do many artists in that situation. More than everything, she loved music, but the constant grind was starting to get to her. She still talks about the chat she had with Keith Urban at that time. The discussion that turned everything around Keith Urban has spent decades working in the music industry. He is familiar with the highs and lows, the excitement of achievement, and the associated strain. He has a unique perspective on what it takes to thrive in a fast-paced profession because to his job. Wilson found herself talking about how difficult things had become at some point throughout her busy schedule. She wasn't griping about the music or the fans. She was having trouble keeping up with the speed, the unending demands, the incessant sense that she had to keep moving forward. Urban paid attention. Then he answered with a simple statement that startled her. "You have chosen this life." 5 phrases. Not a lecture. Just a little explanation. Just a blatant reminder of something Wilson had almost forgotten. She had put in years of effort to get here. The travel, the traveling, the craziness of a full schedule, all of it was a part of the dream she had spent so much time pursuing. She initially said that the remark seemed a bit harsh. However, the more she considered it, the more she saw how accurate it was. A perspective lesson. Wilson was not made any less exhausted by Urban's remark. The timetable didn't get any simpler overnight. Her perspective did shift as a result. She started to perceive the hectic schedule as something she had worked extremely hard to obtain rather than as something that happened to her. Every early flight meant a new city full with admirers eager to hear her music. Every late-night performance on stage provided her with an additional chance to interact with the supporters of her career. The demanding schedule was evidence that the dream she had been pursuing for years had finally come true. Wilson subsequently clarified that Urban's remarks enabled her to transition from annoyance to appreciation. Indeed, the labor was difficult. However, it was the kind of hardship she had longed for. The hard-earned wisdom of Keith Urban, that 5-word reality check, wasn't accidentally delivered by Keith Urban. There have been many times in his own career when perseverance and perspective have been needed. Urban has navigated the turbulent world of country music for decades. He understands what it's like to fight, to keep going in the face of uncertainty, and to be grateful for success when it does come. He is well aware of the psychological difficulties associated with celebrity.